Welcome to the Genius Talk podcast. I'm your host Atul Raj from the bestemailmarketer.com, and today I have a Mike Milan with us. Mike, thank you so much for joining.
Hey, you know what? Live from San Antonio, Texas, it's Cashflow Mike. So here we go, right? I'm excited to be with you. I mean, this is the first time we've talked together, but genius talk? I'm no genius, so I don't know what you're going to get out of me.
Come on, you are a genius.
That's very kind.
Yes, and you're just too much shy to accept that.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so you're known as Cashflow Mike today. So how does everything started?
Yeah, so it's really interesting how it starts, right? So I've got an MBA from Baylor University, so a master's in business, but that's not where it started. I was a state trooper in St. Louis, Missouri for 7 years, right? So I was a police officer for 7 years, and quite literally, my family outgrew my income, right? So I had more children than I could afford on on a police officer's salary. So I'm sitting there writing a student loan check. And I'm like going, what am I doing? Why am I paying for something I'm not using? So I started a little business, a janitorial business.
How many children you have?
Well, I've got 3 children, right? 3 daughters, and I've got 3 granddaughters, right? So now I'm just surrounded by beautiful women all the time, right? All these daughters and granddaughters.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so was there any specific painful cash flow moment in your business that made you say, never again, I'm going to master this? And
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. So if you've ever laid in bed, right? Just laid in bed, you're trying to fall asleep and you can't fall asleep because you're like, oh my God, how am I going to make payroll? How am I going to make, pay this bill? That's the moment I hated in life. So, I mean, I, you know, I had built it, and believe it or not, Atul, there's a such thing as being too successful too fast, right? And it's called growing broke, right? So most people think about cash flow problems as being a struggling business. I don't have enough sales, or there's some other problem in the business. Mine was the opposite. Mine was every new sales created more debt. Here's how, right? My first business that took off was a hotel staffing company, right? So I was providing housekeepers and landscapers and dishwashers and all that to hotels, and I opened 27 offices in 9 states in 3 years. So you're like, wow, that's going great. Yeah, it's going great, except for I was doing business with Marriott and Hyatt and Hilton, all of these big names that people know of hotels, here in the States. But it's one of those things where every new hotel, I had to wait 90 days to get paid, right? But every 2 weeks, I had to make payroll. So think about that. If I brought on a new hotel as a client, I had to make payroll for 3 months before I got paid. So that's how it created the debt. And all of a sudden, more contracts meant more money out of my pocket up front.
okay, so if a business owners could only track 3 numbers to stay alive, which cash flow number would you pick and why?
Yeah, so the very first one, right, is gross profit, right? So when you're looking at your income statement or your profit and loss statement, which is kind of like the report card, I sold this much and spent this much, and this is what's left over. Well, sales is only a measurement of how much work you did, right? Sales doesn't matter as much as gross profit. Gross profit is the amount of money you have to spend on expenses or put in your pocket. So gross profit is the first number that I manage to, right? And you have to have enough gross profit to cover your rent and your utilities and your salaries and those type of things. And then whatever's left over, again, you get to reinvest or put towards other projects or in your own pocket or towards your retirement. So I always start at gross profit as the biggest number to manage to.
And what's
Yeah. So right after that is operating expense, right? So if you really look at it, I mean, you said what are 3 numbers? I look at it in 6 numbers. And you're like, wait, 6? Well, yeah, I've got this technique called mining your business for hidden cash, right? And what mining your business for hidden cash does is it looks at your business from 2 different angles. One is vertically, I start with sales, I look at gross profit, how much operating expense did I spend and how much profit was left over. There's 3 numbers there: sales, gross profit, and operating expense. Those are 3 that vertically look at your business. The other 3 are cash conversion activities. How long does it take for money to go through the company? How long does inventory sit on the shelf? How long does it take you to get paid? How long does it take you to pay your bills? Those two are three sets of numbers that I look at, but they're looking at your business both vertically and horizontally at the same time. And what it will show you is where your biggest problem is. Where is cash leaking out of your business?
Okay. Okay, so in all the businesses you have advised, what are the top two, three cash flow mistake you have seen over and over again?
Yeah, so I've got a rule that I teach my clients right up front, and it's called expense control. And what expense control is a very simple rule, but if you violate this rule, your company will eventually die, right? You just won't be able to keep going. And the rule is this: when gross profit decreases, you have to decrease operating expense by the same amount. So let me say that easier and simpler. Gross profit is the amount of money you have to spend. Operating expense is how you spend it. When you have less money to spend, you should spend less money. And if you keep those two in balance, right? Let me put it in, your language. If you had $1,000 less per month to live on, would anything change in your life? Would you still go to concerts? Could you pay your rent? Could you, would you eat out at fancy places? Something has to change. Well, that's the same rule in business. When you have less money to spend, gross profit, you have to spend less money. And if you do that, you can make the same profit at any sales level because you're balancing the money coming in and the money going out.
Can you share a story of a business that was on the brink of running out of cash and what changed after working with you? And what
Yeah.
were the key moves?
Yeah, I've got one that was in Kansas City, Missouri. It was a waterproofing foundation company, right? And one of the first things that happened, first of all, when he met me, he had just lost $400,000 in a year, right? He had lost that much money. He had that much in net losses. By the very next year, in 1 year only, he made $600,000. So we had $1 million swing in profit. Here's how we did it. One, we priced things properly. He wasn't looking at gross profits. His pricing was too low, so he was getting a lot of work, but he wasn't making a lot of money. The second thing is that he had this warehouse, right? He had a warehouse attached to his building. And here's the way his business worked. He would have crews come in the morning, right? They would get their work orders and say, you have to go to this house to work on this basement to waterproof it. All right. So the people would come in, they would get their orders, they would get a cup of coffee, then they would go to Home Depot and buy materials. At the end of the day, they would come back to the shop and whatever was left over in materials, they would go put in this warehouse. Over time, they had all these materials that kind of stacked up, right? That actually just were sitting there. And so I asked the owner, I'm like going, hey, how much do you think is sitting there in dollars, right? Because it's materials, it's stuff that you can use. It was cement, it was like iron rebar, it was all piers, these things that they put in the ground for shoring up the foundation. So how much you think is there? He goes, oh, it's probably about $50,000 worth. I said, man, it just doesn't seem like it seems like it's more than that. I said, when's the last time you counted it? He goes, oh no, we've never counted that. I said, can you? Can you go count it? So it took him a week, right? He had to go in and organize them. It took him a whole week. Him and two other people went in and organized and counted everything. And at the end, they had $175,000 worth of material.
That's more than double.
Yeah, right. So here's what I had him do next. I said, everybody comes in the morning and they get their order, they get their cup of coffee, then they go to Home Depot. Why don't we have them do this? Get their order, get their cup of coffee, go to the Homier Depot, the one in the warehouse. Go to the one right here in your home, right? So go to the warehouse and get stuff instead of going to Home Depot and buying more. He did that and he put $100,000 in his bank account in 90 days. He was
Wow.
short on cash before he met me.
Yeah.
All I asked him to do was count the warehouse and use that material first. And all of a sudden, he wasn't spending at the store every day like he was previously.
That's great. Okay, so what type of clients you enjoy working with the most?
Yeah, so it starts off first. I mean, maybe you're kind of like me. I can teach anybody skills, right? Skills are easy. I can't give you heart. I can't give you the will. I can't give you the want to do something, right? Because that's where a lot of people fail with consultants or coaches is that the coach gives them advice or says, hey, maybe we should go count the warehouse. Where if you decide, oh, I'm not going to count that warehouse because that's too much work, right? Remember, it took my guy a week. If you say, I'm not going to do it, well, then you're not going to get the benefit of it. And I'm going to look like a failed coach because you didn't get the success you were looking for. So I look for up front, will this person take action? Is this a person that actually will do the things needed to improve his business, or is he just going through the motions? So the person I like to work with is the one that's already committed to taking action because they know if they don't, it's worse, right? They'll lose money, they'll lose their
Hmm.
business, they might lose their relationship. Who knows?
Okay, so what's the process of working with you?
Yeah, pretty easy. I mean, I've got a membership, right? So, and the membership is you just come to the website, cashflowmike.com, click on a membership option, and here's what you get, right? You get video courses that kind of teach you the basics, teach you the math. If you don't want to sit in a classroom and listen to me teach you the math and you go, all you got to do is show me the video or give me the worksheets, I can get it myself, right? I can do it at 2 o'clock in the morning if I want to. So I got a whole video library. Then I have a calendar where you come and sit for, 3 times a week if you want. You don't have to, they're totally optional. But when you're having a problem, you just jump into one of my meetings and go, hey, Mike, I got a problem. I have this going on. What do I do? So I'll do that in a group setting and people can just get help because that's the most economical. Some small businesses can't afford a $2,000 to $10,000 a month one-on-one consulting, but they can afford a $200 or $300 a month group session, right? Just to get help. Then I have an app where you just take your financial statements and you copy and paste it and put it right into the app. And it does all the magic and the analysis and gives you a to-do list to fix your business. So those three together teach you the basics, give you the support when you need it, and give you the tools to be able to find the problems and know what to do next.
Okay, so looking back when you started, what's one lesson you will tell yourself if you could restart again?
Yeah, so I struggled for several years in the beginning, right? So I just struggled and it was actually my grandfather who took me aside and straightened me out. He straightened me out. He goes, "Listen, you are trying to do too many things at once." Right? You're trying to fight battles that don't even exist, right? Meaning what I was trying to do was I was trying to make sure that I had a plan in place for anything that could happen bad in my business. He goes, don't fight battles that you haven't had yet. Right. So, I mean, if they're not there, don't worry about it. Control what you can control. That's the thing I would have learned earlier because it freed up a lot of my time, not worrying about stuff that never happened. Right. You probably have done it. Your listeners have probably have done it where they worry about things that never happen.
Yeah.
It just burns up daylight in cycles.
Yeah. What if? What if? That's what we think.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Okay, so with all the success you have, which personality trait would you attribute majority of your success to?
Oh, that's a good one. What personality trait? I think discipline. Right. I think that's the most important key to me is that for me, I have to kind of do things methodically, right? I have to kind of think through it. I'm not as quick to act as some people are, right? I'm like, oh, well, what's going to happen, right? I'm still a what if type of guy. I just don't waste a lot of time. Like, oh, no, that could never happen. But discipline is the ability to get up every single day and do the thing that you have to do, right? Even the one that you don't want to. There's probably a to-do list that you have right now. You're like, I know I need to do that, but I'll do it later, right? I've got a project that I've sat on for 2 weeks that's due today. So guess what? I forced myself to start it right after this podcast, but I waited till the last minute because I didn't have the discipline to just kind of work on it all before. So I'm going to spend the rest of the day on this one project that I've been putting off and putting off and putting off.
Okay, so you were disciplined from the starting, or something happened and you become disciplined on the way?
Yeah, I think I was disciplined up front. And then I started controlling what I can control. And actually, that's where I got out of discipline was I was fighting every battle. I was being more reactive. Right? I was being more reactive to things that were happening in my business than being proactive about just doing the thing that made me successful, the sales, the operations, the cash flow management. I was worried about what the city council was going to decide or just, what I saw on TV about, immigration, whatever it is. I was worried about so many things that had no impact on my life whatsoever.
So for our listeners who want to know more about you, connect with you, where can they go?
Yeah, super easy, right? Cashflowmike.com, right? That's the best place to connect with me. I think as we're doing this podcast, I don't know when it'll be released, but we're in a website redesign. So if you went today, it would look one way. If you go when this is going to be released, it'll look a different way. But yeah, cashflowmike.com. And you're going to be able to get a free demo, access to a free demo of my app. If you just want to see the types of things that I look at in a business, you'll be able to have access to the app, a demo version.
Is there anything else that you would like to share?
Okay, so you know,
Thoughts?
yeah, what I want to tell people is that money is an energy, right? It's an energy. You cannot chase it. You have to attract it, right? So think about it that way. Every time you try to chase money, it's going to get away from you because it's got its own energy. It's got its own vibe. Money has to be attracted to you, right? Which means you've got to create something where people want to give you money, right? It's the difference between pushing your message out in the market, buy my stuff, look at my thing, and having the market pull the message from you, right? I want your stuff. I want your thing. That's the attraction. So if you can figure out the positive attraction of money, you're going to be super successful.
Awesome, Mike. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for spending some time with us. It was really fun chatting with you.
Hey, you're the best, man. I appreciate you. Great to meet you.
This is Genius Talk Podcast, and I'm your host Atul Raj from thebestemailmarketer.com, of course. So speaking of email marketing, if you got some questions, challenges, doubt, or just simply need some help with your email marketing, then reach out to me at atul@thebestemailmarketer.com and I'll be happy to help.